Hello, everyone. This is Jim Ransom with another of our weekly readings of some of the best poems of the English-speaking world, or at least I'm hoping you will think so, as I do. Recall that last session we had poems about cats by the poet and novelist Charles Bukowski. They are very good, but also extremely different in style and performance from what we're having today. A few people complained that I should have read some of the poems about cats by S Elliot, whose cat poems are found in his book, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. Here it is, right here. And that criticism I thought was appropriate. So today we'll read more cat poems, which will be about cats as seen by Old Possum, a.k.a. S Eliot. And the first of the poems we're going to read is appropriately named The Naming of Cats. The Naming of Cats. The naming of cats is a difficult matter. It isn't just one of your holiday games. You may think at first I'm as mad as a hatter when I tell you a cat must have 3 different names. First of all, there's the name that the family used daily, such as Peter, Augustus, Alonzo, or James, such as Victor or Jonathan George or Bill Bailey. All of them sensible, everyday names. There are fancier names, if you think they sound sweeter, some for the gentlemen, some for the dames, such as Plato, Admetus, Electra, Demeter, but all of them sensible, everyday names. But I tell you, a cat needs a name that's particular, a name that's peculiar and more dignified. Else, how can he keep up his tail perpendicular, or spread out his whiskers, or cherish his pride? Of names of this kind, I can give you a quorum, such as Monkastrap, Quaxo, or Corcopat, such as Bombolurina, or else Jellilorum, names that never belong to more than one cat. But above and beyond, there's still one name left over, and that is the name that you never will guess. The name that no human research can discover, but the cat himself knows and will never confess. When you notice a cat in profound meditation, the reason I tell you is always the same. His mind is engaged in a rapt contemplation of the thought of his name, his ineffable, effing ineffable, deep and inscrutable, singular name. Well, that was so much fun. I think we have to go to, excuse me, another of these wonderful poems, and this one's entitled Rum Tum Tugger. The Rum Tum Tugger is a curious cat. If you offer him pheasant, he would rather have grouse. If you put him in a house, he would much prefer a flat. If you put him in a flat, then he'd rather have a mouse. No, he'd rather have a house. If you set him on a mouse, then he only wants a rat. If you set him on a rat, then he'd rather chase a mouse. Yes, the Rum Tum Tugger is a curious cat, and there isn't any call for me to shout it, for he will do as he do, and there's no doing anything about it. The Rum Tum Tugger is a terrible bore. When you let him in, he wants to be out. He is always on the wrong side of every door, and as soon as he's at home, then he'd like to get about. He likes to lie in the bureau drawer, but he makes such a fuss if he can't get out. Yes, The Rum-Tum-Tugger is a curious cat, and it isn't any use for you to doubt it, for he will do as he do, and there's no doing anything about it. The Rum-Tum-Tugger is a cautious beast. His disobliging ways are a matter of habit. If you offer him fish, then he always wants a feast. When there isn't any fish, then he won't eat rabbit. If you offer him cream, then he sniffs and sneers, for he only likes what he finds for himself. So you'll catch him in it right up to the ears if you put it away on the larder shelf. The Rum-Tum-Tugger is artful and knowing. The Rum-Tum-Tugger doesn't care for a cuddle, but he'll leap on your lap in the middle of your sewing, for there's nothing he enjoys like a horrible muddle. Yes, the Rum-Tum-Tugger is a curious cat, and there isn't any need for me to spout it, for he will do as he do, and there's no doing anything about it. And here's the Rum-Tum-Tugger heading for the lady doing her sewing. I think that's just great. There are many more that I can read, but let's try one entitled "Of the Awful Battle of the Peaks and the Pollicles," together with some account of the participation of the pugs and the poms, and the intervention of the great rumpus cat. Now, the peaks and the pollicles, of course, refer to two different species of dogs. The peaks and the pollicles, everyone knows, are proud and implacable, passionate foes. It is always the same wherever one goes, and the pugs and the poms, although most people say that they do not like fighting, will often display every symptom of wanting to join in the fray, and they bark, 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 until you can hear them all over the park. Now, on the occasion of which I shall speak, almost nothing had happened for nearly a week, and that's a long time for a paw or a peak. The big police dog was away from his beat. I don't know the reason, but most people think he'd slipped into the bricklayer's arms for a drink. And no one at all was about on the street when a peak and a pollicle happened to meet. They did not advance or exactly retreat, but they glared at each other and scraped their hind feet and started to bark, 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 until you could hear them all over the park. Now the peak, although people may say what they please, is no British dog, but a heathen Chinese. And so all the peaks, when they heard the uproar, some came to the window and some came to the door. There were surely a dozen, more likely a score, and together they started to grumble and wheeze in their huffery-puffery heathen Chinese. But a terrible din is what pollicles like, for your police dog is a dour Yorkshire tyke, and his braw Scottish cousins are snappers and biters, and every dog jack of them notable fighters, and so they stepped out with their pipers in order, playing "When the Bluebonnets Come Over the Border." Then the pugs and the poms held no longer aloof, but some from the balcony, some from the roof joined into the din with a bark, 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 until you could hear them all over the park. Now, when these bold heroes together assembled, the traffic all stopped, and the underground trembled, and some of the neighbors were so much afraid that they started to ring up the fire brigade. Then suddenly up from a small basement flat, why, who should stalk out but the great rumpus cat? And there he is. His eyes were like fireballs, fearfully blazing. He gave a great yawn, and his jaws were amazing, and when he looked out through the bars of the area, You never saw anything fiercer or hairier. And what with the glare of his eyes and his yawning, the peaks and the pollicles quickly took warning. He looked at the sky and he gave a great leap, and every last one of them, scattered like sheep. And when the police dog returned to his beat, there wasn't a single one left in the street. I love that. I love that poem. And finally, although my bookmark fell out, the last poem I want to read is entitled The Addressing of Cats. And I'll find it here in a moment. You know, when you put bookmarks in, you better make certain that they stay put, because when they fall out, you're sunk. Let's see here if I can find this poem. Here it is. The Addressing of Cats. You've read of several kinds of cats, or at least today you've heard of several kinds of cats. And my opinion now is that you should need no interpreter to understand their character. You now have learned enough to see that cats are much like you and me, and other people whom we find possessed of various types of mind, for some are sane, and some are mad, and some are better, and some are worse, but all may be described in verse. You've seen them both at work and games, and learnt about their proper names, their habits, and their habitat, but how would you address a cat? So first your memory I'll jog and say, a cat is not a dog. Now, dogs pretend they like to fight. They often bark, but seldom bite. But yet a dog is on the whole what you would call a simple soul. Of course, I'm not including peaks and such fantastic canine freaks. The usual dog about the town is much inclined to play the clown, and far from showing too much pride, is frequently undignified. He's very easily taken in. Just chuck him underneath the chin, or slap his back, or shake his paw, and he will gambol and guffaw. He's such an easy-going lout, he'll answer any hail or shout. Again, I must remind you that a dog's a dog. A cat's a cat. With cats, some say one rule is true. Don't speak till you are spoken to. Myself, I do not hold with that. I say you should address a cat, but always keep in mind that he resents familiarity. I bow, and taking off my hat, address him in this form. Oh, cat. But if he is the cat next door, whom I have often met before, he comes to see me in my flat. I greet him with an oops, cat. I've heard them call him James Buzz James, but we've not got so far as names. Before a cat will condescend to treat you as a trusted friend, some little token of esteem is needed, like a dish of cream. And you might now and then supply some caviar or Strasbourg pie, some potted grouse or salmon paste. He's sure to have his personal taste. I know a cat who makes a habit of eating nothing else but rabbit. And when he's finished, he licks his paws so as not to waste the onion sauce. A cat's entitled to expect these evidences of respect, and so in time you reach your aim and finally call him by his name. So this is this, and that is that, and here's how you, and there's how you address a cat. I think, in spite of all the problem I had keeping on the page, I think those poems are absolutely hilarious and worth the trouble. I enjoyed them all, and I hope you did too. I'll be back next week with some more poems, but the next batch will not be about cats. I think I may have said that last week, but I lied. Okay, bye now.